My name is Clara. I'm 34 years old, a primary school teacher living in Norwich, England. To everyone who sees me, I look like a woman with a steady job, a gentle husband, and a happy little family. But behind the photographs in our hallway and the smiles at school pickups, there is a truth I have carried like a stone in my chest for almost a decade. I've been married to Michael for 9 years. He is steady, kind, the sort of man who listens more than he speaks. People call him thoughtful, dependable. And he is. He listens without judgment, forgives quickly, trusts completely. He never asks for more than I can give. But there is one thing I never gave him, the truth. For almost 10 years, I've lived with a secret that changed everything before it even began. Long before Michael, there was someone else. Adrian. I met him in my final year at university. He had a laugh that carried across the room, and ideas that didn't stop at the edge of the page. He wanted to build his own company, travel to places none of us had ever been, live without rules or expectations. He wasn't like the careful people I grew up with. He was loud, magnetic, impossible not to follow. For 2 years, I lived in the glow of his wildness. We talked about moving to Manchester, building a life together that would be ours alone. I thought he was my future. But not everyone agreed. My parents saw him as reckless, unstable. His family thought I was too conventional, too quiet, not enough for their restless son. We pushed against them at first, determined to make it work, but slowly, something changed. Adrian pulled away. The calls became shorter, the visits less frequent. Then one morning, he was simply gone. His number disconnected, his flat empty. I wrote, I begged, I cried into the silence. No answer came. My world stopped. Weeks later, another truth arrived, a pregnancy test in my trembling hand. I was 23, sitting on the bathroom floor of my small flat, staring at 2 pink lines. My parents would never accept this child. Adrian's parents had never accepted me. And Adrian himself was gone. I didn't know if he would care, if he would want a child, if he would even believe me. I didn't know where he was. I didn't know anything except that I was alone. So I stayed quiet. I told no one. I cried until my body ached, and then I wiped my face and decided I had to keep moving. And then came Michael. I met him through a family friend at a dinner party. He was nothing like Adrian. Where Adrian was restless, Michael was calm. Where Adrian laughed loudly, Michael smiled softly. He didn't sweep me into storms, he offered me solid ground. I was already pregnant when we met, but I never told him. I told myself it was only for now, that maybe someday I would confess. But Michael kept showing up. Small gifts, gentle questions, long walks where he asked about my work, my family, my dreams. He wasn't passion, but he was safety. When he asked me to marry him, I said yes. I told myself love didn't always need fire. Sometimes it was built from kindness, patience, and steady hands. When Ethan was born, Michael wept. He held him like a treasure, whispering, his ours. His perfect. My heart broke with guilt, but I couldn't speak. Each day that Michael stayed up late rocking Ethan to sleep, each day he kissed his small head and whispered endearments, the lie dug deeper into my bones. Ethan had Adrian's sharp chin, Adrian's dark hair, Adrian's stubborn spark when he wanted his way. But Michael never noticed. He thought Ethan looked like me, and maybe that made it easier. I smiled, I played my part, but inside, the guilt consumed me. We built a life. Sunday walks in the park, birthdays with balloons and chocolate cake, seaside photos where we laughed at Ethan splashing in the waves. On the outside, we were a family like any other. But inside, I lived with a truth too heavy to share. And then came the day everything cracked. It was a Saturday. Ethan had a football match at school. We stood with the other parents, clapping, cheering, smiling as our son raced across the pitch. Then, without warning, Ethan collapsed. He crumpled to the grass. The coach rushed to him. I screamed. Michael sprinted forward, gathering him in his arms as if holding him tightly could stop what was happening. The ambulance came. We followed, breathless and terrified. At the hospital, the doctors explained Ethan needed blood urgently. They tested Michael first, he agreed without hesitation. But later a doctor returned with a look that sliced through me. "Are you sure you're the father?" he asked. Michael froze. My heart turned to ice. The doctor explained, the blood types didn't match. It was medically impossible. Michael didn't speak. He didn't rage. He didn't ask questions. He sat in a plastic chair, his head bowed. That night, with Ethan sleeping in the hospital bed, I told him everything. I told him about Adrian, about the pregnancy, about the lie that had built our life. I cried until I could barely breathe. Michael said nothing. He stood and walked into Ethan's room, leaving me alone in the corridor. 4 days, silence stretched between us. Michael cared for Ethan, stayed at his side, answered doctors' questions. I hovered nearby, afraid to speak, afraid to lose him completely. When we went home, nothing felt the same. The air in our house was heavy with things unsaid. Then, one afternoon, the school called. Ethan had hit another boy. Shocked, we asked him why. His small voice trembled. He said, "You're not my real dad." My heart splintered. I looked at Michael, braced for his anger, but he bent down, gathered Ethan into his arms, and whispered, "That's not true. I am your dad in every way that matters." Ethan hugged him tightly. I turned away, sobbing. That night, as I stepped into the garden to breathe, headlights swept across the driveway. A car stopped. A man stepped out. My legs buckled. Adrian. Older now, lined with years, but still the same sharp eyes. He walked toward me, his voice steady but cutting. "He's mine, isn't he?" My silence betrayed me. He didn't wait for my answer. "I want to see him. I want to know my son." Before I could speak, the front door opened. Michael stood there, a mug in his hand. He saw Adrian, saw me, and in one glance, understood. We stood frozen, me, my husband, and the man who had abandoned me years ago. Inside, Adrian sat on our sofa while Michael stood near the window, arms folded. "I want to know my son," Adrian said. "You can hate me, but I have a right to see him." Michael's jaw tightened. "You have no idea who that boy is. You weren't there when he cried at night. You didn't teach him to ride a bike. You didn't love him through every fever and fear. You don't get to walk in now and claim him." Adrian's voice cracked. "I didn't know. She never told me." He looked at me, eyes full of accusation. Shame flooded me. He was right. I hadn't told him. But he had left without a word. "I was pregnant," I whispered. "And you were gone." Adrian leaned forward. "If I had known, I would have come back. I wasn't ready then. But I am now." Michael gave a short, bitter laugh. "Ready now? We already did the hard part. You don't get to act like a hero." Adrian stood. "Then let's do this properly. A DNA test. If he's mine, I want custody. I'll take it to court if I have to." My knees gave way. Court. Lawyers. Judges. My son at the center of a battle. Michael looked at me. Is that what you want? To turn Ethan into a legal question? I shook my head, terrified. No. No, I don't want that. But Adrian pressed on. Then give me what I'm asking for. The days that followed blurred together, meetings with a family lawyer, sleepless nights, whispered arguments. The lawyer said Adrian had every right to request a DNA test. If he proved paternity, he could demand visitation. Or worse, joint custody. I wanted to scream. I wanted to vanish. Michael grew quiet, distant. He built a wall I couldn't climb. The test confirmed what I already knew. Adrian was Ethan's biological father. Adrian demanded visitation. Michael objected, but the law was on Adrian's side. Every other Saturday, Ethan would go with him. The first time, I watched from the doorway as Ethan climbed into Adrian's car, confused but trusting because I had told him to. When he returned, he said they had gone to the zoo, eaten ice cream. He smiled, but I felt sick. Something irreversible had begun. A few visits later, Ethan asked Michael, "Are you still my dad?" My breath caught. Michael's hand tightened around his mug. "Of course," he said gently. "Why do you ask?" Ethan looked down. Adrian said he's my real dad. He said I came from him. Rage burned in me. I wanted to call Adrian, to scream at him. But I stayed silent. I watched Michael kneel in front of Ethan, steady and strong. "Listen to me. A real dad doesn't just give you life. A real dad stays. A real dad loves you every single day. That's why I'm your dad, and I always will be." Ethan threw his arms around him. I cried quietly in the kitchen. Michael changed after that. He became more protective, more guarded. He didn't want Adrian stepping into our home anymore. He didn't speak much to me either. The love between us bent under the weight of my betrayal. I suggested therapy. At first, Michael refused. "What's the point? We can't undo it." "No," I said softly. "But we can heal. For Ethan. For us." He finally agreed. Helen, the therapist, was kind but firm. She asked questions that left us raw. She forced us to say aloud the things we had buried: my guilt, his loneliness, the years of silence that had stretched between us. One day she asked Michael, "What do you want most?" He paused for a long time. Then he said, "I want to be Ethan's dad in every way, not just in my heart. I want it written. I want to adopt him." I gasped. "Are you sure?" Michael nodded. "I've never been more sure." Adrian resisted. "He's my son," he argued. "You can't erase me." Michael's reply was steady: "We're not erasing you. We're choosing love. Ethan deserves a father who is there every day." Months of negotiation followed. Finally, Adrian relented. "If that's what Ethan wants," he said, "I won't stand in the way." Ethan was 8 when the papers were signed. At the courthouse, he held both our hands. "Now you're really my dad," he told Michael. Tears filled Michael's eyes. "I always was." Adrian faded away after that. A birthday card 1 year, then silence. Perhaps he understood. Perhaps he knew he had come too late. We kept going to therapy. Healing came slowly, brick by brick. Some nights, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.